KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to KNON.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
You are listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, Fort Worth. Pledge now. Call 972-647-1893 now to make your pledge.
Good morning and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm David Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink, and our guest today is Christopher Soden. Christopher is a local poet. He writes reviews. That's probably where you've seen the name because he writes hundreds of reviews a year. He's seen in a number of local publications like Arts and Culture.
I do lots of theater critique.
On Examiner, you're on a number of...
Examiner, Pegasus, ANCDFW. Occasionally I write for John Garcia's The Column.
So if you like theater, you've probably seen Christopher's reviews. He teaches, he lectures. We're going to talk about writing today. I write, he writes.
We all write.
Patty just chats.
I write.
And you write too. But before we go to that, it is Pledge Drive, and we're just finishing up our Pledge Drive. We have less than $20,000 to go. But each
more like
show,
10.
Is it about 10 right now? Okay. So we'd like to finish it up on our show.
That's very doable if we get some calls.
Now, the thing is, each show has to show its... do its share of the fundraising. And let me see if I can do this like that other station does. We've really done crap. Isn't that how they do it on that other station?
Before you go on with that, 972-647-1893. So you can be calling 972-647-1893.
And I believe that's the way they do it. They just come on the air and they say, "Hello, this is the Canadian Chefs Show, and we need you to donate $25,000. We've only gotten $17,000 this hour," and then they get it. But KNON has put on the only gay and lesbian show anywhere. Well, not the only one in Texas. There are two. There's one down in Houston.
We're LGBT.
But we're the oldest, and that's true. Well, they are too.
Yeah.
But we're the oldest, longest-running gay and lesbian radio show on the air anywhere in the world. KNON is the one who basically invented gay and lesbian radio. We need to support this station, and the gay and lesbian community, and the L and the not the L, the B and the T community too, need your support to show KNON that you do appreciate what they've done for us for coming up on 30 years. 30 years.
30 years this August.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, I just figured out this is like my 250th Pledge Drive show. Something like that.
And you still haven't memorized the number, which is 972-647-1893.
And again, that's 972-647-1893. Please give us a call because, like I said, just as they do it on that other station when they come on and say, hello, we've just done like crap on our show. So please give us a call. Annie's standing by, Doc's standing by. They'll take your phone call. The other thing that you can do is just go online, knon.org. In the upper left-hand corner, it says Pledge Now. You can click Pledge Now. Tell us your name, how much you want to pledge, that it's for Lambda Weekly, and then click, and it'll take you to another page that gets you your pledge premiums. Speaking of pledge premiums, we have wonderful pledge premiums. What are some of our pledge premiums? I haven't handed them to you, have I? No, I have them here.
There's the new baseball jersey. Have you guys talked about that?
There is a new baseball jersey, and we haven't talked about that. It's blue this year.
It's blue this time. Last year we did a red one. This is the exact same, except now it's blue. It says Knon in white letters on the front with a red outline underneath it. It says Dallas, Texas. Then if you flip it around on the back, it says 89.3 FM as the number. So that's a very cool jersey. It comes in sizes... $125 pledge.
$125 pledge.
And it comes in sizes medium through 3X.
Okay. So give us a call, 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. What are some of your favorite pledge items, Patty?
Well, my standing fave of all time is the apron, the black barbecue apron.
And that's because Patty drops things all over herself, not just when she's cooking.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have a stain on my shirt now. And so, it's a theme I live by. $40 pledge gets you an apron. I oftentimes, when I make my pledge of $40 or more and ask for the apron, then I give it to a friend. Everybody's loved them. So the apron's a big hit. So give us a call, 972-647-1893. And we have a fabulous new T-shirt for the spring that has a Texas bluebonnet on it. And what better
and that's
what
for
better
a $50
shirt?
Pledge.
And Annie is styling it now, and it's fabulous.
She is putting her boobs up to the microphone. 972-647-1893. You need to come around and show it on camera.
David,
my favorite pledge drive item is for $75 is the black and white windproof umbrella. It's a great umbrella. It's nice and big. I have a couple of them, and it actually rained this week, and I used it. So, yep, there's Annie going in front of our camera, and we do have a camera. For people who don't know, we podcast the show. It's a video podcast. You can always go back and watch the show online. 972-647-1893.
And if you're listening to the podcast or watching the podcast, you can go to knon.org and click on the pledge button. And if you can't spell Lambda Weekly, many can't. You can take a stab at it, but you can put LW or that gay show or
all of that works.
All of it works. I did want to make sure that we thanked Raymond, who did go to the website and pledge to you guys the show during the week this week. And
Thank
you, Raymond. He did spell Lambda correctly. I'm looking at the email awesome, right here.
Raymond.
So thank you to Raymond for that pledge.
Well,
excellent.
Some of our listeners have more trouble with the word weekly, I think.
Maybe the word weekly is a tough one.
And one of our new pledge item is the waterproof rain poncho. Did we check it out this week that it really was waterproof?
I don't know.
Okay, because I would hate to be wearing...
But we've been calling it the Sexy Pronto Poncho.
The Sexy Pronto Poncho. I see. That's for a $35 pledge and two of them for a $50 pledge. Is that right?
I think so.
I think so, too. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. I want to get to our guest, and the phones aren't ringing. 972-647-1893. Okay. Christopher, welcome to Lambda Weekly.
Well, thank you. Thank you, David.
Usually during Pledge Drive, we have some regular guests on who have been with us during Pledge Drive, and they're used to it. Thank you for putting up with our nonsense today, but we really do need to raise that money, and we need to raise...
It's a very important cause.
We need to raise it on this show, a good part of it. Christopher has a book of poetry. It was published in 2011 called Closer, and part of this book has actually been performed.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I collaborated with a couple of friends of mine. It was actually about 2 months ago at Nouveau 47. Ben Schroth and Matt Tomlanovich and Justin Locklear and about 8 local actors. We all collaborated together to put together this performance where we chose 16 poems from Closer, my poetry collection, and they all of these all of these actors performed the poetry. Matt Tomlanovich made these short films that we projected on a screen, and Justin Locklear composed all of the music. And then Ben Schroth and I co-conceived of the idea, and we had I keep saying poets, straight actors and gay actors, old and young, different races. It was wonderful. It was just an incredible experience. It all converged just beautifully.
Let's go back. What is Closer about? Because it's not just a random book of poetry, random poems that you wrote that have been collected from writing over the years. What's it about?
It's, a lot of it. I mean, some of it is just about general experiences of humanity and what it means to be human. But yes, a lot of it addresses my experiences as a gay male in American culture and what it means to be a man and connect with other men in both, sexual and non-sexual ways. But what it means to have a queer identity, but also, and as we talked about before, I think, homoerotic contact with other human beings, it's just part of all of our experience, no matter how we self-identify. That's just part of our experience as human beings. And my personal experience, because I've been writing for 35 years, is that a lot of people, regardless of how they identify sexually, connect with what I've written, which is very rewarding.
Well, good poetry is going to connect on lots of levels.
Absolutely.
Yes. I write for Dallas Voice. I don't expect that the only people who are going to understand what I've written are gay men.
Sure. Absolutely not.
We were talking before the show, and I was talking about an article I wrote this week about a gay couple. They'd been together 34 years, and one of them contracted Alzheimer's, and a family member came in, got guardianship, and has refused to let them see each other for 2 years now.
These are heartbreaking, heartbreaking stories.
It's a horrible
story.
It's
just all too often.
Right.
Egregious.
We could become jaded about it because it happens so often, but it's really...
If this didn't happen often, all he'd have to do is go to court and say, excuse me, we got this wrong. Unfortunately, that's the rule, not the exception. But what my point was that we write in different mediums. You're doing more business writing, right, Patti?
Right, and...
But you still want it to flow in a way that when I write, I write it first. But then I go back and I make it more poetic.
Yes.
I bet you do the same thing with your writing, too, that you're not just writing and throwing it, okay, type, and...
Well, in terms of business writing, a lot of it's in dry and should be dry.
Well, it should be, but you want it to have the right tone also.
Sure.
Okay, so in writing a poem, how do you go about doing that? What's the process?
Well, I'll get an idea for what I want to write about. One of the poems in Closer is about two men who are sailors who fall in love. And it's something I'd always wanted to write about. And I thought, okay, so I had the idea. I sat down at the computer and I just jumped into it. And I always try to get out one draft at one sitting right away. That for me is a very important part of my process. Then I'll come back and revise it. I'll tweak it, I'll check it as for flow and for extraneous parts that really don't fit with the whole of the poem. And so, for me, I always try to get it all out, at one time, and then I can come back and fine tune it and do the things that I need to do. It's sort of like the way that a film director will edit a film after he's shot he or she has shot all the film stock. They'll come back and, edit it and make it tight and make it flow together very, very beautifully. And so for me, I try to just get my head focused in that place it needs to be and get it all down the first time around, and then I can come back and make it really tight and make it really effective.
When you're revising,
yes,
I would think especially in poetry, I know I do this all the time, I have this one sentence that I'm just stuck on. I like that fact and I want it in there, and it is so extraneous and I can't get it to work.
And that's when you have to be ruthless.
and that's when I start throwing things out. That's what I've learned to do, and it's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
What do you do with those extraneous lines that you really like?
There's an attic in the back of my skull where I save them for another poem.
Mm-hmm.
I understand Theodore Retke had a notebook for all of these little phrases and things that he fell in love with, but he couldn't fit them in. Mm-hmm. And I've had that too. Like I'll have a turn of phrase or something, or a passage, and I'll try in one poem and it won't work there, so I'll save it, and there it is lurking in my head waiting for its opportunity.
Right.
In poetry, they have an expression called "kill the darlings," and it just means that you have to say, as much as I love this line, it's not for this poem, and you just have to toss it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking to Christopher Soden. He's a local poet. His book is Closer, and he's going to read some of his poetry after the break. It is Pledge Drive, and we do need you to give us a call because we have not been doing well in Pledge Drive, although we've gotten some online during the week. Thank you very much, people who went online, pledged online. You can do that today. You can do that if you normally go online, do that kind of thing at your office. You can do it Monday, even if Pledge Drive is gone by then, because that shows support for this particular show. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. One of the ways that you can support KNON is with the bank draft. Call us now. Tell us you would like to start a bank draft. You can do it with your checking or savings account. An automatic monthly draft will occur from your account. It's easy, and it also helps with our cash flow because we know we have guaranteed money coming in every month. You select the amount to come from your account every month, pledge $1 a day to keep KNON on the air. That's only $30 a month, drafted automatically, and at $1 a day you get several pledge premiums if you would like to have them. We actually like when people take the t-shirts because it's great publicity for the station. It's the only advertising this station does. So we love when people take our t-shirts, but our regular t-shirts, like the ones that are black and white that say KNON, the voice of the people, that's for a $40 pledge. Our Bluebonnet t-shirt is for a $50 pledge. 972-647-1893.
And we have the KNON Elite Music sponsor. Aaron and I have done this in the past. It's for $500. You get to come to everything that KNON does. And KNON has events going on like the live music room, the Red Elvises, the crawfish boils, the barbecue and blues parties. You name it. There are about 40 to 45 events every year. There's 52 weeks in a year, so that's almost one a week. And your names, you and a guest, just reside on the list,
mm-hmm.
and you just show up.
And
it's a wonderful thing.
You know what's neat about those? Like tonight, we're doing a Bar of Soap reunion for the old Bar of Soap bar, and that may be something that starts a trend. And so, a lot of reunions for all these places you like to go to and all the bands that used to play there. So if that's something that it's going to be interesting to you, this is a good way to make sure you're into all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Right, and it's a great way to just take care of it right up front. Right. And you don't have to worry about, did I get a ticket? Did I purchase my mm-hmm. entry? And these things have food.
Oh, yeah.
Food and drink opportunities.
We're going to do an event here with the talk shows. Actually, I guess this will just be ours toward the end of June sometime. But There's food involved. There's going to be a great speaker on the show. People can come in, mingle during the show, ask questions after the show, mingle a little bit. But one thing else about KNON is that the shows that you hear here, you don't hear anywhere else. We're the only gay and lesbian show anywhere north of Houston in the state of Texas. Jim Schutz's show, you don't have newspaper columnists doing weekly shows about things that he's researched all week. Normally you just get people on Monday to Friday, and they're just angry at everything.
Well, Jim's kind of angry. I mean, his show's called "Get Off My Lawn." I think that's
let's
give him some kudos.
I think that's a nice way to be. Just get off my lawn. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. We're about to take a break. Annie is saying, no, we have to go to a break. No, we don't. We have to beg people to call us, Annie. 972-647-1893. Give us a call during the break. Well, no, you're supposed to be listening to the message. No, you can call us during the break.
Community radio provides the kind of programming you won't find anywhere else on the dial. Nowhere else can you find such a variety of formats and personalities in North Texas as on KNON. But this is only possible through the support of our listeners. KNON depends on listener support to stay on the air. Now is the time for you to help keep this show on the air. This pledge drive will continue until the station reaches its goal. If you're waiting out the pledge drive, you might be waiting out the existence of this show on KNON too. So don't wait for someone else to do it. Without the support of people like you, there wouldn't be any community radio on the air in North Texas. So take a few minutes and make a pledge. 972-647-1893. 972-647-1893 to keep your favorite programs on KNON.
When they're gone for good. This is Scott from KNON's Texas Blues Radio telling you don't miss out on some great blues. KNON's Texas Blues Radio Volume 5 Blues CD. It's a CD put together by real blues fans for real blues fans like you. Texas Blues Radio Volume 5 features great local blues from Michael J. and the Paul Bird Band, JJ and the Detonators, the Chris Watson Band, the Two Tones, Rough Cut Blues Band, Jeff Stone with Charlie Love, Dave Millsap, Sirloin and the Ass Kicking Machine, Tutu Jones, Blues Boy Bo, Buddy Whittington, Andrea Dawson, Kirkland James, Sonny Colley, and Johnny Red and the Roosters. Get a copy now at Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie, Record Town in Fort Worth, and in Dallas at Bill's Records. This is a Dallas Blues collector's item. A very limited amount of vinyl copies can be found at Forever Young Records, the sponsor of this great blues project. CD downloads are available at cdbaby.com. Whether you get it as a download, on vinyl, or on CD, all the proceeds will benefit KNON. For more info on Texas Blues Radio Volume 5, visit knon.org.
This is Lewis from UT Arlington, and I listen to Lambda Weekly podcast at lambdaweekly.com.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm David Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink, and our guest is Christopher Soden. The number to call us for Pledge Drive, 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. We have one phone that's going right now. Doc is standing there not talking on the phone, and he needs to be more than anybody. You know, if your company does matching gifts, make your donation to KNON go farther. Many companies match their employees' charitable donations. Go to your company's human resources office, find out if they'll match a donation, get the proper paperwork from them, send it in with your pledge, and when they match contributions, your pledge is doubled, helping the show reach its goal even faster. So 972-647-1893.
And you know, we talked many times about how unanimously it is that when you wear a KNON shirt or item, that someone always comments on it out and about. And last week after the show, we all went together to a famed burger place not far from the station, and we got noticed.
The manager came over to us and
says, "Love KNON."
Love KNON, yeah.
It was a great deal. So we're like, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
You wear the shirt. People comment and talk because they know the station. They love the programming on KNON. 972-647. Nope. 972-647-1893.
Right. Now, one of the things when you pledge to KNON, your money is going directly to the operation of the station. Tower lease, this has gone up. $4,600. And yeah, Clint is shaking his head. Yes.
Yeah, we just signed a new 3-year lease.
A new 3-year lease for more money. So $4,600.
Well, it's less money over the 3 years, but it's more money initially, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Office rent, $2,268. Our old, the crack house, which who knows what the rent was there, but here we have a nice studio, and but it's over $2,000 a month rent just to keep the place operating. Tower electricity, over $1,000 a month. The phone bill. You know why we have such a large phone bill? It's not just answering the phones to get the pledge premiums, but it's to get the signal down to the tower. So when you're making your pledge to KNON, you're helping pay those basics, just the fundamental things that keep the station on the air, keep us broadcasting. 972-647-1893. That is 972-647-1893.
And the folks who do the work of putting on the shows every week, and doing the work of the show every moment of every day, 24/7, pretty much are volunteers. We're not getting paid.
You're not.
Oh, you're not, right. Annie's not getting paid to be here. Doc's not getting paid to be here. So,
And
this
I'm
money, and David's not.
For 24 years now.
24
It's 24.
years.
I started on the station 1990.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing amount of time, because I've been on 14 now.
Yeah, and the show has been on for 30 years. So oldest, longest running gay and lesbian radio show anywhere. We have the oldest, longest running Dallas poet anywhere in the studio with us. Christopher Soden.
Cool.
Christopher, why don't you, we're talking a little bit about writing and how to write. Why don't you read us one of your poems? Set it up for us and then just give us one of your poems.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, okay, this one, I sort of, it was inspired by the idea that I think sometimes there's this kind of estrangement and disconnect that maybe happens between the gay community and the straight community, and it kind of provoked me, and the poem that I wrote here was trying to address that issue. I hope Governor Perry is listening.
He listens to us every week.
Oh,
we're his favorite show.
From
he
your
donates
lips
regularly, doesn't he?
From your lips to God's ears. Okay, this poem is titled "My Kingdom is Far Away." And though I cannot hear the notes of my songbird or glimpse his plumage, I will not forget the sanctity of my birth. I do not expect to be honored here, though the God who harvested your stars plucked mine as well. Forgive me if I find some of your subjects slow. My passions confound them somehow, repulse them, as if they had found a child raiding the sugar bowl, as if they cannot understand that sweet is sweet. If you could only smell the dark blossoms of my country, taste the fruits of our orchards, I would name them for you, weave them into the great tent of our history. It is always easy to mock another's customs, paths that terrify or astonish, while I am supposed to believe that casting salt or imbibing ersatz blood or the cloaking of brides are the practices of an enlightened culture. I would not presume to instruct you on the care of outcasts, only suggest a country's values are reflected in its treatment of prisoners. You cannot imagine how I miss my home, my groom. Even now, he is filling the basin with hot water and lather. He is daubing his temples with a rich, delectable salve. He is singing my name to the weary sun. He is asking the sovereign of all worlds for my safe return.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
You don't mention gay in there, but
No.
it's real obvious.
Yeah,
To me, anyway.
I think so.
Is it to somebody who isn't gay? It's not. Okay. And I get that, because what you're really talking about is literally you're talking about weaving them into the great tent of our country. And
Yes.
one of the things that we're always fighting for when we're fighting for gay equality is just being part of the great big tent.
Yes, and it's. I'm usually far more articulate. I was telling David I'm kind of a night owl, so the blood may not have reached my brain yet.
Right, and
morning.
you had something last night late.
Yes.
And we couldn't schedule you later on when you were. I know.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a reaching out, and saying, these things seem so improbable to you, but we live in a world where, you put a veil over a bride, and you throw salt, for luck, and all of these things. And how much of that is improbable, and it's just a matter of just saying, I'm going to roll with this. This frustration that we're sort of perceived as like we come from planet Mars or something, and I don't think there's this profound disconnect that
Doc comes from Mars.
Oh well. Doc, I apologize. I myself am from Neptune. But, I wanted to address those issues. I mean, we have our profound loves, just like everyone else. The people who just, make our lives so beautiful in such, poignant ways. I don't think it's so different. I really don't.
Again, talking about the big tent, when we go to a DJ's meeting at KNON, there are more than 60 shows on the air, and it's really interesting to see this odd conglomeration of people that, we're just this ragtag group that gets this radio station on the air, and it's great to see. And everybody has this fierce dedication to it.
Because there's every manner and source of DJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of show.
Exactly.
On the air here.
And we're one of those in a show that you don't have anywhere else. When you said the country's values are reflected in the treatment of prisoners.
Yes.
I love that line.
Oh, and I would very much like to give credit, because I heard it. It's a quote from someone else. But yes, the quote is something like, the values of a country are reflected in the way it treats its prisoners.
Because prisoners are considered the lowest of the low.
Exactly.
And how you treat the lowest of the low is a reflection of the country.
Exactly. And in some ways, unfortunately, in some people's eyes, we're considered
just the same exact
right.
Illegal until 10 years ago, next month, completely illegal in Texas to be gay.
Yep.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And when you think about the prisoners, I mean, Texas is another I guess leader in how badly you can treat a prisoner. I mean, we
it's reprehensible.
The conditions in Texas prisons are horrid, and then we have we're notorious for the death penalty here in Texas. And I think contrast that with, I'm such a true crime buff, but I watched a show not long ago about a murder that took place by an American, and alleged to be an American, in Monaco. And during his imprisonment, they talked about when they brought him his first course for lunch, and then his second course, I mean, because it's completely different. They would just be uncivil not to have a 3-course, at least a 3-course meal, at each time. I'm like, what a contrast! What a contrast! And it's the same, with our community. I think here in Texas, because we're, for the longest time we were the lower than low, and they're still trying to make us, hold us down as something low in our state.
I do want to just jump in here. It is Pledge Drive. If you'll give us a call, 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. I want to thank Jason from Dallas for making a pledge to Lambda Weekly.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah. So calls are coming in. We need to make this our best Pledge Drive week. Because our other two were kind of sketchy there. 972-647-1893.
And we've hosted a lot of organizations and groups in the North Texas area to come on the show and talk about their organization and their events and campaigns that they're leading in various areas in the community. So if you've been part of one of those groups that we've supported by having you on the show, give us a call and show us some support too. $10 pledge, $5 pledge, $25 pledge and upward for premiums. And
and I have another one.
Show some Lambda Weekly love.
We're going to do a big. We have a good guest coming that I think a lot of people would like to meet. The end of June isn't confirmed yet, so that's why I'm not announcing who it is. But and so we might have to change it. But it'll be somebody good. If you'd like to come on the show, sit at the desk with us, and help ask questions with us, and we'll help you with that. So this is not a I'm afraid of the microphone thing. You'll get here early. We'll prep you. If you'd like to be on the show at the DJ desk with us for that broadcast, $150 pledge gets you at our desk. 972-647-1893.
And some Knon wear.
And some Knon wear. 972-647-1893. And
well, this is Doc from Mars.
Yes.
Yes. There's a difference between community stations and public broadcasting stations. Well, that's Brand X, isn't it? They receive federal money.
We receive absolutely no federal money. That's
so.
True.
In other words, we're a community station, and we depend on your pledges.
Yes. We do. We don't have Exxon as a sponsor. We don't have insurance companies as a sponsor. We don't have oil companies, any of that like the big guys do. We just rely on your pledges. 972-647-1893.
Truly the voice of the people. And the people need to call 97 and Martians 972-647-1893.
Your English is very good, Doc, by the way. One of the things we were planning on just throwing these things in, a couple of news items that happened this week, but your poem brought out some of this. We're talking to Christopher Soden. He's a local poet. Weave them into the great tent of our history is one of the lines from the poem, which I love. Out of the Texas legislature, in the House this week, Matt Krause, who's a new House member, he put through a bill that forbids Texas state universities from allowing student groups, or
requiring student
groups to not discriminate. That's what it is. Now, it was an anti-gay bill.
So in essence, it allows student groups at Texas state universities all over the state to discriminate if they so choose.
But the thing is, and this is where I love when bigots show themselves, because in this law, it was intended to be an anti-gay bill. You can discriminate based on religion in this law. You can, and it hasn't passed the Senate yet, but it did pass the House. 76 votes of shame in the House. Religion, race, creed, national origin, disability, even disability. I don't want you because you're in a wheelchair. Can you imagine a student group doing that?
So basically, at Texas A&M, there could be a chapter of the KKK on campus, and it would be perfectly legal in Texas if this passes. But
that's what I was thinking. What other group is interested in this? Let's say it's a religious group. You went to Baylor, and let's say there's a Baptist group. And I'm Jewish. Let's say I went to Baylor. You have Jews at Baylor. Let's say
Catholics.
Let's say I attended one of these Baptist groups. Wouldn't you want me there? Because that's
certainly
you want me to join your.
Yes. Exactly.
Why would anybody want to discriminate? I don't get this. Anyway, it's Pledge Drive, 972-647-1893, 972-647-1893. That story, you didn't hear it quite that way from any of the right-wing talk stations this week.
No, you didn't.
They were touting it, and the only person or the only group that law benefits or would benefit if it passes before it gets declared unconstitutional, because boy is it, is the Ku Klux Klan. 972-647-1893. We'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
If it's time to get rid of your old gas guzzler, the Knon Vehicle Donation Program can help. There is still a market for those old vehicles, and if you donate it, you are helping to support the quality programming here on KNON. Just call 877-KNON-AUTO or go online to knon.org. We'll take care of everything from pickup to tax paperwork. That's 877-KNON-AUTO.
Coming this Saturday, KNON pays tribute to one of the greatest dives ever by presenting the Bar of Soap reunion at Wits End at the corner of Crowdis and Elm Streets in Deep Ellum. Doors open at 4 p.m. and the music kicks off right away on 2 stages with the Blue Flames, Girl, the Criminals, Donnie Ray Ford and the Midnight Ramblers, the Barry Cuda Combo, the Spit Sonny Ed and the Duval Combo, the Harmonaires, the Brass Knuckle Band, Dragna, a reunion of the Fed Ups and Plunger, and Responsible Johnny with DJs Mr. Rid, Charlie Don't Park, and Al Wildcat. Poetry by Jim O'Brien and more. It's BYOM. That's Bring Your Own Meat, because the grills will be lit. Tickets are on sale now at knon.org, and even if you didn't go to the Bar of Soap, you do not want to miss this event. KNON played all these bands at one time or another, so you know they are some of the finest. By the punks, for the punks. That's the Bar of Soap reunion at Wits End this Saturday, May 18th, starting at 4 p.m. This is a KNON benefit event.
This is William, your videographer for the KNON talk shows. You can watch Lambda Weekly by going to the KNON.org website. Click on schedules to the left side of your screen, choose Lambda Weekly's page. Scroll to the bottom of that page, then choose your favorite show to watch or download. This show will be ready for viewing by lunchtime Tuesday. Have a great day.
This is Jason Wright from Dallas, and I listen to Lambda Weekly 89.3 KNON.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink. Our guest today is poet Christopher Soden, and we're talking a little bit about his poetry. We're weaving his poetry into some of the news. By the way, Jason, who donated to the show, he's straight but has listened since we were on Sundays, and he said thank you for taking on what regular radio is afraid to.
Well, thank you, Jason. We
you
appreciate
go,
that.
Jason. Yeah.
That's what we strive to do.
Oh, I thought
awesome.
it just gives me an opportunity once a week to open my big mouth.
It does. But fortunately, that sort of aligns with some other goals, too. So that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. Give us a call. Operators are standing by, or in actually only one standing by. 2 of them are sitting by. Christopher.
Yes, sir.
Poetry is something that all of us have tried.
Sure.
You wrote poetry when you were...
sure. Absolutely.
An angst-ridden teen, didn't you?
Everybody did.
Especially when you're in love, or you're in love and it doesn't work out.
Okay, now Clint... who's the station Neanderthal? Clint has...
He did Mad Libs.
Yes,
he didn't do... Mad Libs maybe too old for some people.
Never wrote poetry. I think it's something, though, that appeals to LGBT people of color,
yes.
People who are not going through... who are in some way in conflict with mainstream.
Disenfranchised.
Thank you. That's a good word.
Yeah.
Is that how you started?
Yeah. When I started out in college, I had just begun to explore writing, and I started out writing poetry and some fiction, and I took a fiction writing course, and that wasn't going very well. And I showed some of my poetry to the teacher, and he said, "You should really go with the poetry." And so then my next semester, I enrolled with Jack Myers at SMU, and he became my mentor and my guide. But yes, definitely my feeling, that sense of being an outsider and having these intense feelings for other men and not knowing where they were coming from, that provided tremendous fuel and motivation.
Okay, now when I'm writing an article, and the ones that I'm talking about are my stories that are about people. It's not just a news event, but I do an awful lot of feature stories, like the one I did this week about two guys who had been together 34 years, and because of a guardianship, they haven't seen each other now in 2 years. One of them has Alzheimer's. They've been torn apart.
Just very sad.
Well, and to go to that, and yet our state tells us we can just go to a lawyer and take care of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Right, and they did. They had the paperwork in place. When I'm writing some stories, I have my stories that I agonize over and the stories that write themselves.
Yes.
The ones that write themselves usually tend to be good. And by that I mean I sit down, I write it, I put it aside, I come back to it, I revise it, get rid of duplications, because sometimes, in 1,000 words you put in a fact here and you repeated it somewhere. Sometimes there's there's a sentence that you typed wrong. Sometimes there's he said this, he said this, he said oh no, I don't want to say it that way. You need to work on it. But the story wrote itself, and all I have to do.
Yes.
Some of them I agonize over. I just can't. Every sentence is like torture.
Yes.
Okay, what is poetry like?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are definitely some that I've written where it's very slow going. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking, okay, now what do I say? Now what do I say? Now what do I say? And then there are others that for one reason or another, as you say, they're just kind of like a seed. And when I start writing them, they just flow out. And usually they require less revision, and they require less tweaking. But yes, those are graces.
And sometimes one that requires less writing for me is somebody who told me a story eloquently, beautifully, lovely details. I was able to double check some things. I had a couple of other people who chimed in on and bump, there it is. With you, it's more, you have the idea, and the idea flows, and sometimes you have the idea, and it just isn't coming out right.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times I'll say, ooh, I want to write about this. And that's when you're dragging out every word. And then, with some of them, sometimes my best resources are some memory that sticks with me for some reason or another, and it's always been there, and I've never been sure why. But then when I start to explore it in a poem, then it just comes out.
Okay, so how long does it take to write a poem?
Okay, when I'm sitting down and I'm trying to get out that first draft, maybe 2 hours tops. Sometimes, I focus. I try to get my head in the right place. I try to find my way into the poem. And, I've been doing this for such a long, long time. And I do poetry workshops a lot. And a lot of times I just had, like, maybe the night before to get something new written. So I'd be under that stress. And so I'd be, like, pounding it out. But, yeah, I mean, I would say, like 2 hours at the most.
But that's not your finished draft.
No, that's just my first draft.
You put it aside, or do you come back the next day? What's your process?
Well, once I have that first draft out, as you say, I'll set it aside for a few days. Then I'll come back and I'll look at it, and I'll take out the repetitions and the words that don't need to be there. Anything that keeps it from seeming like an organic whole. Anything that seems to be detracting from the main thrust of the poem.
But I find though that when you're writing something, even if it's whether it's poetry or anything really, unless it's crystallized in your mind, you really kind of can be stuck, and with it, trying to flow.
Sure.
But I find that process of thinking about it in order to advance really cathartic.
Oh, yes.
Because that's where you really kind of think, what am I trying to say? I can feel it, I just can't put it in words yet. And so that process of bringing it to words is I think, very healing and cathartic.
Oh, well, healing is a great word. Yeah, and so is cathartic. It gives you a chance to embrace it, I think.
Okay, Christopher, I'm going to give you a chance to find your poem or find the place that you want to read.
Sure.
It is Pledge Drive, 972-647-1893. 972-647-1893. Patti, you have a news story you want to talk about. I bet this poem is going to be a great segue into it. I have no idea which poem. I'll make the segue. 972-647-1893 is our number. It is Pledge Drive. Christopher, which
Okay,
poem?
this poem is based on a childhood memory, and it's called That Day. He came home with a coloring book, handing it to me without a word, his face slack with resignation and fatigue, his shirt damp with blotches of sweat. He was somehow more present than I can recall before or since. Mother, sensing my confusion, explained the dentist pulled Daddy's teeth to make room for dentures. He cannot speak or have dinner with us. How could a boy so small grasp the gravity of an event that suddenly has taken the weight of sacrament? The distance in my mother's voice, the solitude as my dad removed coat and tie, settling into his chair and unfolding the evening paper. How could a simple mistake knock the revolving and chaotic globe from its axis? How could two sentient mammals drift so far from one another and beyond repair? I can only tell you I remember a flood of sadness for a father I do not think I liked. The profound lack of understanding of why he made the trip to the grocery store to buy me a gift on a day that must have been so awful for him. I cannot believe it has taken me 52 years to stumble upon this epiphany. I cannot believe I'm telling you that I love him.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that's from a childhood memory of yours.
Yes.
What part of that was what actually happened?
Well,
your father's...
He had his teeth removed.
Yeah, he had his teeth removed.
He couldn't speak.
And he couldn't talk. Yeah. But he bought me a coloring book. Mm-hmm. And, we never had really gotten along very well anyway. And, I mean, what was I? Was I like 5 or 6? I was very young. And he took the trouble to bring me this coloring book. And I thought, why, with everything else that was going on with him on that day, would he have made that effort, to bring me this thing? And when I sort of put the pieces together, I was really overcome. Mm-hmm. It was just such a strange day anyway, because there was just something about the whole ritual of it, and my mother saying, well, your dad can't talk and he can't eat, so he can't have dinner with us. And I sensed there was this subtext of something going on between them that I wasn't quite understanding what was happening. Mm-hmm. The way that a kid will know there's like a red flag, but they won't know exactly what's going on. And so when I wrote about it, it was sort of trying to decode this episode that seemed really crucial and so intense and important, but not knowing exactly why. It was very mysterious, but it was like there was essential information that was somehow, going over my head. And so it seemed like a very, very good, a rich resource for writing. It's got so much emotion for me. And that's always a good place to start when you're writing.
For a poem, right? Or for an article.
Oh, sure.
That's about somebody that you want to grab them with. This is Pledge Drive. The number to call us to support Gay and Lesbian Radio for North Texas, 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. We are about halfway to our goal. We need to get farther than that. You can pledge online after the show's over, during the week, actually anytime during the year, but you can pledge online, knon.org, and you'll see the pledge button. Okay, you want to hear my segue?
Right.
Okay, so Patti has the story that took place in South Carolina. The poem was about removing teeth,
Can I make it? Okay, well we could make this work.
Yes. So your story is about removing.
Removing genitalia, actually. And we knew that Clint would like move his chair back a little bit.
He's in the other room now. We hate to scare him out of the studio like this.
Oh, there was a case in the news this week about a child who was born and became a ward of the state of South Carolina who is intersex. Was born with ambiguous genitalia, and oftentimes these present externally in terms of external genitalia. You don't know what's going on internally. Oftentimes there's a uterus, ovaries, testes. There's lots of different variations that can result from that. There are chromosomal differences, there are hormonal differences, but intersex person could be a lot of different things. And so typically today we let the child grow up and find out what their identity is, and then they make a choice whether they want any surgeries or no surgeries at all. If there's no medical reason, if they're fine, they can function biologically, that's fine. A lot of times intersex kids don't want to change at all. Well, the state of South Carolina had this baby who was an orphan and a ward of the state who had ambiguous genitalia and just arbitrarily decided to make this child female. And now this child is 7 years old and he's a boy. He's acting like a boy. He's been adopted. He identifies as a boy, no question. And the parents are basically suing the state of South Carolina to make sure this never happens to a child again. Because if they just did it in a rush to make sure that this child had one gender, then that's a stupid reason. There should be there was no medical reason to do it. So the decision needs to be made later in life and by the child. So anyway, I think it's an interesting story because a lot of people, particularly many in the LGBT community, but many outside the LGBT community, who really don't get gender identity and the concept of it. And this child is an example of what many people have to face. So I think it's an important story.
Yeah, and it's not as uncommon as you would think.
Right, as 1 in 2,000 children born are intersex.
In some way or another, like you said. It's
lots and lots of variations. There are about 80 genders, actually, when you count them up. So,
we're almost out of time. We're talking to Christopher Soden. Christopher, thank you for being with us. We are out of time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
The book is
Closer.
And you can get it where?
You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Rebel Satori Press. You can get it at Lucky Dog Books on Garland Road.
Are you going to be doing another reading from it somewhere? You did one. You just did one.
Yeah, absolutely. And
a few minutes ago, actually.
No, but I meant in public.
Gotcha. We're in public.
I will keep you apprised of any future.
Good.
But actually, yeah, I've been talking with Ben and Matt, and we'd like to bring Hour of the Wolf back. We were very pleased with how it went, and we're looking for another venue. So I imagine that won't be too far down the pike.
You can support KNON and hear your own personal message on the air, a birthday, or surprise a friend, or honor an anniversary. Your message will be on at the beginning of every show for 24 hours. And, Patti and Aaron, for your anniversary, I think that's a wonderful thing to do around the clock. It's a pledge of $500. It gets you one announcement at the start of every hour for one full day. Today's programming, sponsored in part by Patti and Aaron, honoring their anniversary. It would be that kind of thing. Sure gets out the message of who some of the people are who listen to this station. If you haven't called yet to pledge to our show, pledge to the show that's coming after us, because we want to end this pledge drive today or tomorrow at the latest. 972-647-1893. Annie's especially saying that because her show's on Monday morning at 7 a.m.
She wants it to be done.
972-647-1893. Give us a call and let's end this pledge drive, and specify that it's for Lambda Weekly when you call, because we have to show the support that this show has. See you next week.
KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to knon.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
You are listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, Fort Worth. Pledge now. Call 972-647-1893 now to make your pledge.